her dreams take wings over skies so blue. She will save the earth and its every glory. She will teach her child every golden story. She's the woman of the earth, spreading love and joy, fun and laughter. Woman of the earth, making miracles forever after. Woman of the earth, spreading love and joy, fun and laughter. Woman of the earth, making miracles forever after. Loving, caring, working, sharing, teaching, singing, mothering. Loving, caring, working, sharing, teaching, singing, mothering. Listen to her voice, singing in the wind. Feel her gentle touch in the golden sunlight. She was born to love, kiss our tears away, vanish all our fears, fill the world with joy. She's the woman of the earth, spreading love and joy, fun and laughter. Woman of the earth, making miracles forever after. Loving, caring, working, sharing, teaching, singing, mothering. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Good evening, everyone. This is Maria Esperanza Mina. Our group is the second delegates that will be presenting our proposed solution in response to this COVID-19 pandemic. Our group strongly believes that we should prepare for the new normal and embrace it. And for tonight's presenter, that will be Angelah City, Cebu City, Davao City, Esperanza, Sultan Kudarat, Iloilo City, NAGTIPUNAN, QUIRINO, MANDAUE City, Cebu, Puerto Princesa City, Quezon City, Sagudai Quirino, and San Fernando, Cebu. So without further ado, let's get started.
The world was swept with the magnitude and severity of the COVID-19 pandemic. More than a year after it commenced, let's take a look back at what and where the pandemic started. Hi, this is Amira Alisha G. Qamhawe, Miss Philippines Earth, Esperanza, SULTAN KUDARAT. The COVID-19 pandemic is caused by the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, or the SARS-CoV-2, a single-stranded, positive-sense RNA virus from the family Coronaviridae. The coronavirus family is known to have zoonotic viruses, meaning that they can be transmitted from animals to humans. What is interesting to note is that upon sequence analysis of the SARS-CoV-2, the virus which causes the COVID-19, it was discovered that it is a recombinant virus between the coronavirus found in bats and an unknown source that is. This suggests that the virus may have originated from these animals, with whom human interaction is made possible due to deforestation and wildlife trade. The pandemic started in Wuhan, China, back in December of 2019, where a few cases of novel pneumonia clusters were reported. By the end of January 2020, similar manifestations have already been observed in Europe and the USA. On February 12, the World Health Organization termed the disease COVID-19, and on March 11, the situation was categorized as a pandemic. Shortly afterwards, the Philippines started what was to be the longest lockdown, which continues until today. At present, the virus has already spread to all 7 continents, with cases reported in more than 200 countries. As of June 15, the World Health Organization has reported about 176 million confirmed cases and 3.8 million deaths worldwide. In the Philippines, over 1.3 million cases have been recorded since the pandemic started. Now, we are experiencing how deadly a microscopic virus, something that we can't see with our own eyes, can be. And just like how the smallpox and the polio epidemics weren't the last, the COVID-19 pandemic may not be the end, especially if we fail to act towards stopping deforestation and the encroachment of wild habitats. As Bill Gates quoted, and I quote, "Getting ready for a global pandemic is every bit as important as nuclear deterrence and avoiding a climate catastrophe. Innovation, cooperation, and careful planning can dramatically mitigate the risk of each of these threats." Now let's welcome Ms. San Fernando, Cebu, to look at the effects of the pandemic on various sectors and life in general.
Hello everyone, maayong gabi. This is Saibal Shan Kasli Papatid, your Miss Philippines Earth, San Fernando, Cebu. So I will be talking about how the pandemic greatly affected various aspects, namely education. The Philippines educational system was way behind the international ranking, and it has been more obvious when the global pandemic hit the country. Though not a new concept, our educators and learners have been forced to embrace blended learning prematurely. Perhaps this new normal in the field of education has been an eye-opener to improve our curriculum, followed by the economy. There is no doubt that it is not just the Philippines that has been affected economically by the pandemic, with the closing of borders, both international and local, followed by the closing of non-essential businesses. It is a no-brainer that sooner than later, one's economy will start to plummet. Most businesses closed during the pandemic, but as the saying goes, if a door closes, windows will open. True enough, some Filipinos were able to take advantage of the pandemic, just a testament of the Filipinos' resilience. Followed by the tourism. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yes, there was a great impact on the economy when COVID hit the country, but what industry was greatly affected? the tourism. With the ripple effect of closing borders and limiting the movements of the people, the businesses within the circle suffered. The hotels, theme parks, airline and passenger vessels, and many more started to lay off workers as they were incurring losses, even those small, medium entrepreneurs who relied on the coming of the tourists suffered. And of course, one of aspects that was also greatly affected is the mental health of the people. With the embracing of the new normal in the education system, one aspect was not given emphasis or at least was not viewed important in one way or another. It is the impact on the mental health of the students. Suicides and suicidal attempts increased in numbers day to day. This should not be taken as just mere statistics. This should alarm our educators and family to be able to know the roles that they are taking and how to detect and improve poor mental health. And lastly, environment. Among all the aspects mentioned, it is the environment which benefited most from the pandemic. Mother Earth were able to rest and breathe as possible, consumed less petroleum gases for travel, factories and heavy machineries were not operating as well. The seas and oceans were free from the navigating vessels. In short, less carbon footprint. And the result, clearer skies, bluer oceans, and better forests. And to explain further on the effects of the pandemic, I give the floor to Miss Quezon City.
Hello, everyone. I am Miss Quezon City. Thank you, Queen, for sharing that. To add on to the effects, I will be sharing the mental, social, and environmental impact of COVID-19. And I will also be, throughout my short presentation, referring back to cited sources to provide you academic insights on the impact of the pandemic. So the first one is the psychological impact of COVID-19. So this relates to mental health effects. There was a study done from March to April 2020. So mind you, this was last year. So how much more were the results this year where the pandemic has reached for over a year? And they collected over almost 2,000 online surveys done by the Filipino community, and the results were staggering. They found that within those 2,000 online surveys, 16.9% were displaying moderate to severe depressive symptoms. 28.8% were displaying high level of anxieties, and 13.4% was displaying high levels of stress. So we can clearly see that not only 2,000 people, but all the Filipino people and their mental well-being has been impacted by the pandemic. The second one is the societal impact of COVID-19, which relates to the social effects. The first one is the clear disruption of the delivery of education and health services, and this has largely impacted the low-income households. There was a report presented back in October where over 3 million students in the Philippines remain unenrolled because they come from low-income households and they could not afford or have access to resources needed for online schooling. And more devastatingly enough, we know that Philippines is a nation that is prone to natural disasters. So from last year to this year, and during the pandemic, a lot of households, a lot of families have lost their homes because their homes were destroyed due to storms and flooding. So we can clearly see that from a psychological and societal stance, that a lot of Filipino families have truly suffered and faced challenges during the pandemic. And now for the environmental impact. And we can clearly see that there is an upside to it. There was a discovery found that in the Southeast Asia region, there, especially in the urbanized regions in the Philippines, they found that there is a much lower level of air pollution. And that is an amazing feat. However, unfortunately, there is also a drastic rise of plastic pollution, and plastic pollution has always been a big problem even prior to the pandemic. So how much more today? And now for the general overview, the psychological, the societal, and the environmental impacts. Yes, there are upsides to the environments, but we can clearly see that from all these different sectors, these have adverse impacts on the Filipino people. And now moving on to Ms. Saguday Quirino, Ms. Angel Keith, where she will be presenting more information on the effects of the pandemic on the Filipino people.
Hi everyone, I am Ms. Saguday. We all know that COVID-19 had affected everyone from all walks of life. It changed our perspective and it broke our system. Last year, as we try to engage the kabataan of Saguday into worthwhile activities, an essay writing was conducted with the topic, Quarantines ang mga aral ng COVID-19. Today, I wish to amplify their voices. I wish to share with you my reflections as I read their essays. I'm so sorry. And for someone who represents Saguday in this national pageant, I want to share their thoughts to the whole nation and let these micro voices be a reason for our micro changes. And allow me to read some of their lines from their essays. The first essay is from Blessing Joy, and she stated in her essay entitled Humanity Light Amidst the COVID-19. She stated that COVID-19 is indeed merciless. It has taken more than 1 million lives and still infecting people around the world. Though it is not just taking life, it also takes our freedom to have normal life and to experience life as it is. And I think that is true. Meanwhile, Justine Carbonell stated in her essay entitled COVID-19, Big Bang of the Decade. She stated there that virus threats, quarantine, greed frontliners, scarcity, hunger, job depletion, panic buying, crisis, and even social havoc. These were the things that hit us by surprise. And that is true. No one ever imagined that we will face these things now. And another thing, and the other essay is from Miss Ivy Tabares. Her essay is entitled Pandemic's Opportunity and Misfortune, a Paradox. She stated that in a blink of an eye, an unwanted nightmare visited the whole town. Working streets, vehicles, and individuals crossing the pedestrian lanes leave one by one. And it is true that in just a blink of an eye, everything suddenly changed. Another essay is from Miss Alisha Nagabuyo. Her essay is entitled COVID-19, The Storm Before a Rainbow. She said that who would have thought that something invisible to the eye will stop people from all over the world. This pandemic has been nuisance to people. It has taken people's precious time to work, to study, and mainly to have social interaction, plus the bonding with loved ones. And I think that is true because with our current situation, we don't have enough time and opportunity to meet and have bond with our friends like before. And the last essay is from Miss Arlene Aranca. Her essay is entitled The Seeds of Quarantine. She stated there that this pandemic had been creeping our lives since its occurrence. But on the other side, it served us as a wake-up call to everyone. It reminded us of the societal roles that we had forgotten, such as unity, selflessness, obedience, patience, and made us realize that even small things can cause a huge effect on the majority. We never imagined that this pandemic will cause a big difference in our lives. It truly snatched our time to live our lives to the fullest. And with a blink of an eye and a snap of a finger, it eventually reprogrammed our lives. No one have thought that something invisible to the eye will stop us from doing what we usually do. However, we should not just look on the burden this pandemic has brought us. When we try to look for its brighter side, it really helps us and it serves us as a wake-up call to realize things that truly matter. And now, let's welcome Miss Puerto Princesa City to discuss what is new normal. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So let's talk about what is new normal. So what is new normal? The term new normal first appeared during the 2008 financial crisis to refer to the dramatic economic, cultural, and social transformation that caused social unrest, impacting collective individual lifestyles. This term has been used again during the COVID-19 pandemic to point out how it has completely invested and transformed undebatable pivot of human life, such as work and family organization, children's education management, imposing a radical revision of the traditional ways, practices, and skills used to manage them. After the onslaught of COVID-19, the paradigm of the new normal has emerged, which has been different sectors, such as will be the first one would be reducing vulnerability by keeping a healthy lifestyle. Second is reducing virus transmission by observing infection control. Thirdly would be reducing contact with a potential disease carrier. Fourth will be reducing the duration of the infection by establishing effective diseases management mechanism. And lastly, it will be ensuring governance and accountability by putting in place strong health regulations and policies. Now, these are the 5 things that we have been taught. We've been taught by government, such as regulation when it comes to using face masks, face shields, washing your hands, keeping yourself healthy, drinking your vitamins. So because of new normal, since lockdown happened, the government included many regulations and protocols for us, not just our citizens, to help us keep safe, but as well as the people around us. Now, to know more about the new normal, let's proceed to NAGTIPUNAN QUIRINO for more information about the new normal. Next slide, please. Oh, next slide, please. I'm done.
Next slide, ma'am. Next pa po. Next, ma'am. Sorry. Next pa po. That's it, ma'am. Again, good evening, everyone. This is Xyra Ballesteros from NAGTIPUNAN QUIRINO. This new normal has put everyone on a test to see who can adapt and embrace the new way of living. And I appreciate how our government sectors try to embrace this kind of earth-wrecking virus. As you observe from the slide, by using 2 words, which is then and now, we can simply understand what happened before the pandemic hits us and now that we are in the new normal. As you can see from each aspect, we have suffered a lot. But let's try to focus on the brighter side. We were able to stabilize different ways to expand progressively with our new normal ways. For instance, from our talented minds, we were able to grow technologically as we embrace technology and social media as informative and functional tools. And it is just a simple proof that we can embrace this new normal. After all, we Filipinos are known for our resiliency, right? We can adapt to situations and recover from them as quickly as we can. Look how we managed to turn those struggles into building blocks for us to move forward. From our convenient workloads, we have managed to expand our time as we try to finish our work from home at the same time to the household chores. Back then, we used to establish human encounters during exchanging and buying of goods. But right now, we have accessible goods that is more convenient through online shops or local entrepreneurs.
Also, we were able to witness more bayanihan movements. This new normal brought out the best in us during these trying times. Communities showed unity and discipline to prevent this widespread of the virus. Families and friends took care of each other a little bit more than they used to, and everyone showed empathy despite their own struggles. We lend our hand even to strangers. We give hope and strength to each other and continue our fight for our advocacies and principles. To sum up my discussion, I have thought of an acronym which is EARTH, and it's to embrace, accept, reality to heal. Let's accept reality as we overcome change today for a healthy and radiant tomorrow. We have to act now. Let's do great things today to reap great things tomorrow. Thank you. Now let's hear further information from my sister queen, Miss Cebu City.
So hi everyone, maayong gabi sa tanan. I am your Miss Philippines Earth, Cebu City, Guia Moreno. So why should we adapt to the new normal instead of going back to how things were? So change is inevitable. We are in a global pandemic and we have no other choice but to adapt to the new normal. Because if we don't, we're gonna face serious consequences, just like what happened to India. So India, during April this year, their cases reached 18 million. Their total daily cases were over 300,000 infections, which made to the #1 global record. So their deaths also skyrocketed. So their crematoriums were burning for so long that their metal structures have started to melt. So this is very alarming. So as you can see here in my slide, this is the scenario in India. So you can see a man waiting for his family to be cremated. Next slide, please. So here you can see people building new crematory platforms because to accommodate all the dead bodies. And you can see here, patients are being treated outside their temple because their hospitals were already full. Next slide, please. So what you see in the picture is a man who just died from COVID-19. He is a 45-year-old father of 5. So this is very sad because this whole thing could have been avoided. But because of policy complacency, this is what happened to India. They disregarded safety protocols such as wearing face masks and face shields because their public messaging in India at that time was that they have already conquered the virus. They have reached an immunity to the virus. So those residents who were very strict in following safety protocols last year, they completely disregarded their face mask and they already mass gathered indoors. And then they also celebrated a festival called Qamhawe, where millions of people gathered in one town to celebrate this festival. So you see, this is what's going to happen if we don't adapt to the new normal. So what we can learn from this is that adaptability, this trait, if we embrace this, if we embody this, we will not only survive, but we will thrive. So let's talk about solutions. Iloilo City, please take it away.
Thank you, Ms. Cebu City. May we ask to move back a few slides, please? Thank you so much. Yes, there you go. Thank you so much, Ms. Cebu City. Good evening, everyone. I am Rocel Angelah Songano, your Miss Philippines Earth, Iloilo City. According to the World Health Organization, everyone has an important role to play in stopping COVID-19, as individuals, as communities, as governments, and even as private companies. As individuals, we can all protect ourselves and others by washing our hands, by avoiding touching our faces, by physically distancing, by isolating ourselves when we're sick, and by practicing good respiratory etiquette, like covering our nose and mouth when coughing or sneezing, or by wearing a face mask and face shield in public areas. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. Communities must be empowered to ensure service and aids are planned and adapted based on their feedback and local context. Critical functions such as community education, protection for vulnerable groups, support to health workers, contact tracing, and cooperation with physical distancing, measures that can only happen with the support of every communities. Next slide, please. Governments must lead, enable, and empower all individuals and communities to own the response through communication, education, engagement, capacity building, and support. At the same time, governments must give the health system the support it needs to treat patients with COVID-19 effectively and maintain other essential health and social services for all. Governments may have to implement physical distancing measures and movement restrictions proportionate to the health risk faced by the community. And last slide, please. Private companies. Lastly, private companies must ensure the continuity of essential services, such as the food chain, public utilities, and the manufacture of medical supplies. Private companies can provide expertise and innovation to widen and sustain the response, most notably through the production and distribution of personal protective equipment, ventilators, medical oxygen, and other essential medical equipment, all at a fair price. Remember, the solutions can be as easy as washing, covering, and distancing. Do it for yourself and for your loved ones. Now, to add to these solutions, let's all welcome Ms. MANDAUE City.
All right, thank you very much for that. So indeed, very well said by our delegates. So the community, the individual, especially the government and the private companies is very important when it comes to this, the participation of each. So the congressional response, according to Republic Act 7394, it stated that the best interest shall be considered the interpretation and implementation of rules such as the regulation of the business and establishing the standard of conduct for the business industry. So it's very important to encourage all the domestic and the foreign organizations here in the Philippines as well as to the other parts of the country to observe the corporate and social responsibility under of this law. And according on the humanitarian response plan, it's not just just a scratch. Sometimes it's easy to plan things, but it's very important that we're coordinating the local government units in our municipality. We should be coordinating with our sectors such as the DOH, providing the certain measures in assurance that the businesses are not compromising, rather maintaining the safety regulations. So basically, it's very important that each mayors of the municipality, our group is presenting a solution wherein an ordinance will be passed through the mayor. So there will be a regulatory meeting that they will talk about the proposed solution. Because here in Mandaue, our mayor Jonas Cortez recently, July 23, if I'm not mistaken, already passed an ordinance wherein we have to wear the mask properly, regardless if you're wearing the mask. So you have to wear it properly because you will be fined of 5,000. And in Cebu City, there will be a 30 days of imprisonment and a 10,000 pesos addition. So basically, excuse me. So basically, it's somehow prohibit the people, the Mandaue Hanons, to be more conscious. especially if they're in public, outside of inside of Mandaue, and even in Cebu City, to wear their masks appropriately. Not just, some people are just wearing their masks, they're just putting on their head, or sometimes they're just handling it. But in Mandaue, you have to be conscious because you're gonna have to pay. So in our group, we are proposing the solution of implementing such rules, and this will somehow encourage the local businesses around the municipality and also all over the Philippines to be more responsible in watching their customers, their clients, to wear their masks, to watch the protocols, the certain protocols, in order for them not to pay for that. And other solutions will be furtherly discussed by the next delegates. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Gail Ventic, your Miss Philippines Earth Angelah City, and I am going to be discussing all about vaccination. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Vaccination. So vaccination has been the most trending topic nowadays. Should I get vaccinated? Should you get vaccinated? Should your family members get vaccinated? So that is something that we're going to be talking about in my short presentation. Is it safe? What are the logistics? What is the history of vaccination? Next slide, please. Vaccination is a simple and effective way of protecting people against harmful viruses and diseases. So vaccination has been here for years and years to come. So historically, vaccination has been founded by Edward Jenner in the 1700s. Next slide, please. So if you're going to look at the death toll historically of the different pandemics, we are experiencing different viruses and diseases and pandemics in the history of mankind already. So for example, we have Black Death, we have smallpox, we have HIV, we have Spanish flu, and the likes. So if you're gonna think about it, how does all of these viruses, all of these diseases were able to be eradicated by the human being? The answer is vaccination. And history repeats itself. So the only way for us to go, the only way for us to really move forward with the COVID-19 pandemic is through vaccination as well. So if you're going to look at the infographics here, we only have 8.3 thousand death tolls as compared to the Black Death, which is 200 million. So are we going to wait for the death toll of the COVID-19 virus to reach that of the 200 million of that of the Black Death in order for us to get ourselves vaccinated? I don't think so. We have to really push for this. We have to move forward and get ourselves vaccinated as soon as we can. I am pro-choice. If you don't want to be vaccinated, that's all right. Maybe there are different precautions through age, and you also have different health conditions. But majority, we really have to push for this in order for us to recover for the COVID-19 virus. Next slide, please. So how does it work? So just a quick explanation how it works. Basically, COVID-19 is COVID-19 immunization and vaccination can be stimulated by injecting an antigen. An antigen is either the activated part of the virus that would be inserted to you. So your antibodies, which is very amazing because it can actually remember that virus. Once you get the COVID-19 virus infection, the real COVID-19 infection, you won't get the virus anymore. So that's the only way for you to get immunized with the COVID-19 virus. Next slide, please. Is it safe? So basically, it is safe because medical scientists were able to test a lot of different laboratory trials rigorously, and really they were able to do this scientifically. So me as a medical scientist myself, it is my profession, and I could really attest to this. Before we release the vaccines to the public, it has to be approved by either the government and as well as the Department of Food and Drugs Agency. Also, there are different precautions when it comes to getting your vaccines done. You should not be young, so 18 years old below is not allowed, should not be immunocompromised, should not have any allergies, and you should also not have any anaphylactic reactions with the vaccine. Next slide, please. So 70% of the population should be vaccinated to achieve herd immunity. It means that herd immunity is the sum total of the community who are vaccinated. See, for example, in the Philippines, we only have 5% right now who are vaccinated. So we are still a long way to go when it comes to getting herd immunity, but at least we're already starting. So you and me, we should really push forward in achieving herd immunity by getting ourselves vaccinated. If you haven't signed up yet, get yourselves vaccinated, your family vaccinated. You will not only protect yourself, but you will also protect your loved ones and globally, the whole world as well. So thank you. Let us move to Ms. DAVAO City to discuss further the different solutions when it comes to battling COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you so much, Ms. Angelah City. So this is Elda Louise Sinajan Aznar representing DAVAO City. So after talking about the solutions, now let's move on to the preventions. So this topic of mine is called Solutions for Preventions of the Next Pandemic. So did you know that the pandemic is connected with deforestation and wildlife trade? So how is it connected? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. All right, so how is it connected? As humans diminish the biodiversity by cutting down forests and building more infrastructure, they're increasing the risk of disease pandemics such as COVID-19. A new study helps to reveal why, while some species are going extinct, those that tend to survive and thrive, like rats and bats, are more likely to host potential dangerous pathogens that can make the jump to animals to humans. So this phenomenon is likely to be the direct result of increased contact between humans, wildlife, and livestock as humans move into undeveloped areas. These interactions happen more frequently on the frontier of human expansion that increases encounters with animals. So even though this is happening, there are certain or like 100 ways of preventing this from ever happening again in the future. So what are the strategies that could help us prevent this? Can we go back 2 slides, please? Thank you. So the solutions and strategies. First, we can remove subsidies favoring deforestation, restrict private land clearing, support territorial rights of indigenous people. Also, we can also strengthen and enforce the existing international conventions and increase funding for programs that monitor wildlife trade. So another solution or strategies is, next slide please, is responsible business practices in the Philippines. So even though we have a lot of strategies, the fact that, next slide please, next slide, next slide please. Okay, the fact that, that the cost of preventing the next pandemic is only 2% of the cost we're paying for COVID-19 is the reality of this situation. So as what our World Health Organization Director General said in his opening address, this will not be the last pandemic, nor the last global health emergency. But with the right political and financial investment now, we can advance health security, prevent and mitigate future pandemics, and protect our future and the future of the generations to come. All it takes is cooperation, discipline, and unity. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. That sums up our presentation for Presentor number 2. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something from us. Have a nice evening, everyone.